is it practical to say there's 120 million Americans, give or take, who have some financial bruise? Their credit score is damaged or whatever's going on in their life. Can you coach them up, rehabilitate them, and get them back in the game? Get them back in the game of driving aspirational success in their own life. Does that create more customers? Does that create banking clients who pay their bills? Does that create taxpayers who pay their taxes? I think the answer is yes.
Hello everyone, my name is Jailan Griffiths and I'm Vice President and Global Head of Purpose here at Nasdaq. Today we are really excited to celebrate and kick off Financial Literacy Month with Operation Hope. Truly my great pleasure to welcome Operation Hope's founder, chairman and CEO, John Hope Bryant. Operation Hope is a non-profit, full-purpose organization focused on financial dignity and inclusion. Since 1992, you've been moving America from civil rights to silver rise, with the mission of making free enterprise and capitalism work for the underserved. At Nasdaq, our purpose is to champion economic progress for all, and we're exceptionally proud to be a partner in your Financial Literacy for All movement and all the hard work you're doing to disrupt poverty and empower inclusion for low and moderate income youth and adults. John, thank you so much for joining us here today. It's great to see you.
Great to see you. I had a lot of fun listening to the combination of something that we intentionally designed to be phonetically hard to say, forcing you to slow it down, which is civil rights to silver rights. Listening to you say that, something that's already hard to say with a UK accent attached to it. This is a moment in history, but history does not feel historic when you're sitting in it.
Yeah.
It just feels like another day. But that doesn't mean the moment's not historic. And I really believe that financial literacy is a civil rights issue of this generation. Now, I used to say that a decade ago, and people sort of were polite to me, but sort of rolled their eyes. They thought it was important, but not urgent. Certainly 20 or 30 years ago, when I founded Operation Hope 30 years ago, literally people just shrugged their shoulders. Sort of ahead of our time. You have the majority of this country who are living from paycheck to paycheck. People making six figures. People here in Manhattan, a third of everybody making $250,000 a year in Manhattan are living from paycheck to paycheck. If you're living in Manhattan, this is for everybody, everywhere in the country, but if you're living in Manhattan and you're making $100,000 a year, it feels like $36,000 in your pocket.
Yeah.
This is everybody's issue. The number one cause of divorce is money. These are the easy issues to talk about with regard to financial literacy. Number one cause for heart attacks is stress. Number one cause for stress is money. Why is some woman staying with an abusive man?
Money.
Money. It's everywhere, but we don't talk about it. But put that aside. Why are we aspiring? Why are we working so hard? What is the American dream? We're a democracy rooted in capitalism and free enterprise. We're the largest economy on the planet. Well, you can't be there's never been a world leader that wasn't an economic leader. So if we want to continue to be the opinion maker and the thought leader in the world, the true north, the light on the hill, we got to continue to be economically prosperous. And it's pretty amazing that out of 8 billion people on the planet, this little country with 350 million people, give or take, is kicking out $21 trillion of GDP a year. That's 30 million businesses and 3 million black businesses and women who are starting businesses at a rate faster than anybody else since the it's any time since before 2004. All that's financial literacy. All that is understanding how the system works. It is a miracle what we've created here. Well, we can screw it up. And so I think there's a silver lining here possible if we take a hold of it. And that's making sure we don't miss the moment. We don't miss the moment. And that's why I say that this is the civil rights issue of this generation. I think this is what I call the third Reconstruction, which is about opportunity for all. The new color is not black or white or red or blue. It's green, economics, right? It's also green, environmental, but in this particular case, I'm talking about economic prosperity. And the beautiful part about this, to quote my friend Melody Hobson, is that math doesn't have an opinion. So it's really non-emotional.
It's non-emotional.
It's non-emotional. Everybody can get this argument.
That makes so much sense, and it's such a way to frame it. So I think we've discussed why financial literacy is so important. and you talk about the moment, this is the civil rights question for this generation. That led you to Financial Literacy for All.
Yes.
As a program, as a movement. Tell us a bit more about it.
I want to make this important, urgently important to leaders of free enterprise core signature companies. I want them to embed this into their business plan, not just into their public affairs messaging, not Financial Literacy Day once a year. I want this to be like, I think this is what healthcare was inside of a company 50 years ago. We have 70 CEOs who have Fortune 500 CEOs who have, Fortune 200 actually, who stood up and said, I'm with you, including the commissioners for the NBA and the NFL. And every month we pick up another six to a dozen companies. And we're excited about the future because if we can get these companies to lead this charge with all of their infrastructure and resources.
Yeah. And the companies you mentioned as well, they're all diverse companies.
Yeah.
And we're part of it too. And I think the beauty of it is we're all bringing something different to the equation.
That's right.
To your point, we are approaching it differently, but taking what you built, so that network partnership approach, we're bringing in the areas of our expertise to then unite around this.
Yes.
I think, how do we together solve financial literacy?
You know this, the audience may not. The most profitable companies in America are the most diverse and inclusive.
Yes, I do. Yeah, and agree.
Of course you do. That's why you're the leader within the foundation and in this whole stakeholder space. But I want to make sure the audience gets that this is just not an issue to smile about. It's an issue to think about. The most diverse regions of the country are the most economically prosperous. And it goes on, and of course America is the most diverse country in the world. Every race of people within our borders, and it's the biggest economy in the world. You can do well and do good. It is possible to do well and do good at the same time.
So let's talk about financial literacy and if we go deep into that, what would you say are sort of the two biggest barriers or disparities that contribute to someone's lack of financial literacy? And from that, what are the specific consequences of having a lack of financial literacy for people?
Well, I'll be personal about it. I think that the two issues are emotions and ignorance. First of all, it's what we don't know that we don't know that's killing us, what we think we know.
True.
Or put it another way, and I grew up in Compton, California, in South Central LA, you hang around 9 broke people, you'll be the 10th. So, if you hang around prosperity and smart people and people who are progressive and building things, the likelihood that that'll be your trajectory is high.
It's your path forward.
It's your path forward.
Yeah.
So we model what we see. So I think it's what we don't know that we don't know. That's the first thing. I think, by the way, on the first thing, there's a presumption that, well, this is a poor person's issue. No, not at all. This is everybody's issue. 70% of this country is living from paycheck to paycheck. The second issue is harder because it's tied to pride. Our money is wrapped up with our self-esteem. It's wrapped up with our confidence in ourselves, our belief, our faith. I mean, banking, as an example, is built on trust. It's interesting how, in some ways, spirituality is falling away in this country, which is troubling to me. But if you don't have spirituality, a belief in something larger and more important than yourself, and a belief in the intangible, then you don't really understand free enterprise and capitalism. I mean, capital comes from the Latin word capitas, knowledge in the head. Credit comes from credito, credibility, another Latin phrase. These are intangibles. Banking and financial services, that's a trust business, right? These are intangibles. So if you have low self-esteem, if you have low confidence in yourself, you don't believe in the system, you're not going to participate in it. No. If you have an abundance of pride, you're going to be ashamed to admit that you don't understand money.
What role can organizations like Nasdaq, like Operation Hope, what can we do to build stronger, more financially healthy communities?
Make this normal. I call this the third Reconstruction. The second Reconstruction was access. So just trying to get into a building like this for you and me, by the way, a white female and a black male in 1960, 1950, that
Might
was
not have been so
might
positive.
not have been so possible. Well, you just assume that it's the case now, right? So the Second Reconstruction was about access. First Reconstruction after the Civil War was about freedom. So 1800s, freedom. 20th century, 1960s, about access. Now the 21st century, about opportunity for all. This movement has deals cut in the suites. We're negotiating, talking about this in business suites, not marching in the streets. We still need people marching in the suites. But what we need are people watching this program, watching this feed, saying, what can I do inside of my company to bring on new internships? As my friend Stephanie Rule would say, let's expand the table and add a chair. So what are you doing in your company to reflect the values, the cultural standards that we're seeing in our communities, which means more diversity and diverse inclusion, which makes your company stronger and makes you more successful, by the way. Are you bringing on internships and apprenticeships, and who are you hiring, and who you're contracting with? We have a 1 Million Black Business Initiative at Operation Hope that's now created over 200,000 black businesses in the last 2 years. I mean, that's unprecedented. I mean, 200,000 black businesses is, I think it's like 7% of all black businesses in this country by just Operation Hope. That's not only mathematically important, it's also a cultural shift. Get from a hand-out mentality to a hand-up mentality, from giving you a fish to teaching you how to fish. And that, whether that business lasts a day, a year, a decade, or forever or not, you changed. Your DNA, the endorphins in your brain have rewired. Now you're a believer in yourself. So what can you do in that About Us page of your company, if you're a company leader watching this, to reflect the diversity of views and gender and inclusion, racially and otherwise, economically, in that company? You should look like who you're serving. What can you do to contract, use that balance sheet, use that income statement, to contract, to do business with folks other than those you went to college with? What can you do to influence your workforce with things like Hope Inside the Workplace, where we're doing financial coaching? The more you put into them, the more you're going to get out of them, employees. So whether it's investing in communities or investing in schools, adopting a school and rallying around that school to either teach financial literacy with your employees, or create Hope Business in the Box success stories, young kids who've been given $200, $500 to start a business after they've been given financial literacy coursework. This will make your employees feel good. It'll make leadership of the company proud of their company. It'll make them vendors and clients and customers and investors in that company, I think, prouder of the association. I think I want to go beyond the word proud. I think feel better about the investment that they're making and who they're working for. I want to go beyond the word proud because it's emotional. It just makes, it's like, oh, I'm glad that I'm with a company that actually stands for something.
Well, it makes sense.
There you go. At scale.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think wherever you are, long answer to your question, I'll make it short, is wherever you are, wherever you're standing, do something.
So pivoting really, thinking about the future and progress, are there any benchmarks you think that exist that will help us gauge and measure progress in financial literacy? You know, where have you seen the most success in that sort of thing?
Absolutely. I mean, look, it's outcomes, not just inputs, right? So I've mentioned the 220,000 black businesses we created. That's an output, not just an input. We've invested in Operation Hope $4 billion through our partners, most of them financial firms, to create homeowners. The number one way you build wealth in this country? Homeownership. What's the black homeownership rate in this country? 41 to 43%. That's abysmal. The mainstream homeownership rate is 70, 75, almost 80%. I mean, well, 75%. That's a delta of 30 points. That's too much. We're not investing in the stock market. We're not, because it spooks us, it scares us. Again, that goes back to shame. So
and you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know,
yeah.
right? These are just fundamentals. And I think poor white population, by the way, has the same emotional response as the African-American population, or any immigrant group who's just new to this country and doesn't know the ropes, or anybody who feels outside the system probably feels the same way. The Hope Credit Score Index is powerful because it is data-driven, and you can punch in your zip code on our website and get a credit score back. You tell me your zip code, I'll tell you how you're living. I'll tell you your credit score, and it'll tell you how you're living, because that will determine who's investing in your community what's the high school dropout level, whether it's a two-parent or a two-parent or single-parent household residence, whether you're going to college or not, whether you have a life expectancy of 61 years or 81 years. Yes, I just said the credit score determines, and your zip code determines whether you can live 20 years longer or not. It's incredible. So that data is on our website. Then we have, I think, the most powerful outcomes, which are the results of our coaching, whether it's in the employment base or in communities or in the bank branches where we are, et cetera, getting the banks out of the no business, back into the yes business, by raising the credit score 54 points in 6 months through financial coaching. That's financial literacy in action. It's moving credit scores 120 points in 24 months. So that work we're doing to reduce debt, $3,500, increase savings up to $1,500, $2,000 in some cases, increase credit scores 50 points to 120 points. For somebody making $48,000, $50,000, that makes you bankable.
That matters.
That matters. It
It
changes
really
your whole life.
It does.
Rehabilitating.
Now you have opportunity.
There you go.
It opens it up.
Opportunity for all. That's what I
Yeah.
said about the third Reconstruction.
Yeah.
So is it practical to say there's 120 million Americans, give or take, who have some financial bruise? Their credit score is damaged or whatever's going on in their life. Can you coach them up, rehabilitate them, and get them back in the game? Get them back in the game of driving aspirational success in their own life. Does that create more customers? Does that create banking clients who pay their bills? Does that create taxpayers who pay their taxes? I think the answer is yes.
It's more prosperity.
More
Both
prosperity
personal
for all.
and economic.
And city,
Yeah.
county, state, federal,
Yeah.
GDP.
Done. Last question. Obviously, this is the start of Financial Literacy Month.
Yes.
What can viewers, listeners do this month to help improve their own financial literacy?
Have a family meeting once a week. Yeah. Tell the kids that the lights don't come on by themselves.
I'm familiar with that one. John, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we look forward to partnering with you and continuing to partner with you as we drive financial literacy and make it more accessible in all of our communities.
And thank you and all the leadership here for caring so much.